Hi, and thanks for stopping into Mr. Ulrich's landofbiology.com. I'm Mr. Ulrich. In this short video, we're going to be looking at regulation and how it governs our bodies. Of course, that begs the question, what is regulation? And if you think back to the beginning of the year, hopefully you're thinking about homeostasis, because regulation is the ability to maintain homeostasis, or a stable internal environment in a changing external environment. Root of the word, of course, is regular. It's kind of like if we take this group of students here, they look nice and comfortable sitting outside and probably in the springtime with their jackets on, and I immediately transport them to, say, something that looks more like this. They won't all immediately die of heat prostration. There's going to be a change in their body in response to the sensors that tell them that it's too warm, and they will start to sweat, hopefully, and the sweat will evaporate, and that will cool them off. There are two organ systems that are involved in maintaining homeostasis. They're the nervous system and the endocrine system. Doesn't really matter which one you're talking about. They both work under the same premise of stimulus and response. Just about everything that we do can be thought of as a complex sequence or series of stimuli and responses to those stimuli. We will be comparing the nervous system to the endocrine system later. Right now, we can just think of the nervous system as responding quite quickly to stimuli, where the endocrine system takes a little bit longer to come on. Okay, so a stimulus then is a detectable change in the environment. It has to be detectable, otherwise we don't know that it's going on and our bodies won't respond to it. That stimulus has to be picked up by some sort of a sense organ. That sense organ will then send a nervous impulse, which is an electrochemical signal, to some other part of the body, a muscle or a gland, which we call the effector, and the change in that effector is the response to the stimulus. So there is the stimulus and response, stimulus and response, stimulus and response. In a Regents type of question, you are often asked to be able to identify the stimulus or the response in an example. So our sensors are basically our sensory organs: the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the skin, and lips. All of these, and the nerves that connect them to the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord, are referred to as the peripheral nervous system. When the peripheral nervous system would also include the nerves that connect the effectors to the central nervous system as well. Okay, this is the neuron. A neuron is a nerve cell. The job of a nerve cell is to transmit impulses from one cell to another. Though there are several different types of neurons, they're generally classified into three categories. This one that we're looking at is a motor neuron, a type of neuron that connects other neurons to effectors like muscles. The other types of neurons are interneurons and sensory neurons. But the motor neuron is kind of the classic neuron that you're going to see referred to in most pictures. Regardless of the type of neuron, its job is to transmit an impulse. The impulse is an electrochemical wave that travels from cell body to the terminal branch, and of course that means we better know some parts of these cells. If you're looking at this cell and thinking that it looks kind of like a tree, it's a good idea, good thought. People who study trees, dendrologists, referring to the branches of trees, and the branchy bits here of this neuron are referred to as dendrites. Being a good eukaryotic cell, it does have a nucleus located in the middle of the cyton or cell body. From here, the nerve impulse is going to travel down along the axon. In mammals, it's myelinated. That means it's fatty and transmits the nerve impulse a little bit faster, quite a bit faster. Until it reaches the terminal branches of the axon down here at the nerve terminal, where it's going to, in this case, stimulate an effector. In the case of other types of neurons, stimulate another neuron. The important thing that we need to know about here is the direction of travel is going from the cyton to the nerve terminals, or from the dendrites through the cyton to the nerve terminals. So we need to know the direction of impulse travel. Okay, how often the connections and the electrochemical impulses in the nervous system are compared to the electricity flowing through a computer, say. But one of the differences is going to be where parts of the computer are going to need to touch in order for the electricity to be conducted. In the nervous system, the individual neurons don't actually touch one another. The point at which they do come close is referred to as the synapse, or the junction between two nerve cells. More specifically, we're talking about the space in between, the gap, or what's called the synaptic cleft between two neurons. What happens is a nerve impulse travels down along the axon to the terminal knobs of one neuron, and that stimulates the release of specially shaped proteins called neurotransmitters that can bind to correspondingly shaped receptor molecules on the neighboring cell, which causes a change in that cell, and then the impulse travels down that dendrite towards the cell body and to the next synapse or synapses. It's important to note that these things happen really, really fast, in fractions of a second. There are several synaptic interactions that take place. Okay, we've talked about the peripheral nervous system. We've talked about how neurons work and talk to one another. We need to take a moment here to discuss the central nervous system. That's the brain and spinal cord. The majority of the human brain is cerebrum. This is referred to as the thinking part of the brain. It's the site of memory and cognition and some gross motor control and sensory interpretation. Quite a complex organ is an understatement. Back at the bun area of the back of the brain is the cerebellum. This is the site of balance and coordination, fine motor control. And the medulla is the site of involuntary activity. It controls things like heart rate and breathing. The brain, of course, is in two hemispheres that are not perfectly symmetrical. The corpus callosum, looks kind of like an upside-down Nike swoosh, is the nerve fibers that actually connect the left and the right sides of the brain. From here, we should talk about the pituitary gland and the endocrine system, but that's going to be the next set of slides. So thanks for tuning in. Remember, you can always go back and check the slides and go a little bit more slowly over this. Once again, see you in class.